All right, Aaron, good to have you on. We don't really have a name for the show just yet. Tell us a little bit about yourself. Tell me what you do for the city of Camrose and what are some of your responsibilities here.
Yeah, thanks, Andre. So, at the City of Camrose, the position that I've been in for over 5 years now is the Director of Planning and Development. So, between myself and the rest of the staff in the Planning and Development Department, we approve any development, any subdivisions. We take reports to council. We do long-range plans for the future of Camrose, whether that's the downtown area development plan, shout out, or the we're actually just starting on an update to the Augustana area redevelopment plan as well. So really anything being built, if you see a shovel in the ground, chances are it has something to do with planning and development. And that's my job, is to review those applications and ultimately see them approved.
Fantastic. So tell me a little bit what was your background before Camrose? How did you end up in Camrose? And yeah, we'll go from there.
How long is this show supposed to be?
We'll see. Whatever you give us, we'll work with it.
I grew up in Vernon, BC, in the Okanagan Valley, and I did my undergraduate degree at UBC Okanagan in Kelowna. I majored in human geography, which is very similar to city planning, with a minor in history. And the way I got involved is I started doing a little bit of work with the city of Vernon, and one of my professors pushed me to sort of get involved in some public engagement activities that they had. I was also interested in transportation, and then it evolved into this moment, almost an epiphany, where I was like, hey, what's that episode of Seinfeld where, what was it? Art Vanderlei? He wanted to be the architect, but then turned out why design a building when I can design entire neighborhoods? I want to be a city planner. I had that moment. I was like, what better calling is there to have like an impact on the growth of your community? I'm always complaining about roads or transportation or something. Why not get involved? So I ended up signing on and doing a master's program in city planning at the University of Manitoba. So I lived in Winnipeg for a couple of years. And then after that, quite honest, couldn't wait to get out of Winnipeg, so moved to Calgary without a job, but the market was hot back then in about 2014, and did a little bit of work with Bike Calgary and the Beltline Planning Group, which is a neighborhood in Calgary. So I'd review like skyscraper proposals and things like that, really tall buildings, and that was exciting. And then this job opportunity popped up with Camrose, and I thought, boy, Canmore, that would be nice. No, honestly, I didn't know where Camrose was. I didn't know anything about it, and I started looking into it. It seemed like a really nice city. Came up for the interview and was really impressed. Liked the community a lot, and my wife, moved here in about 2014, and been here ever since, and love it still. Love being here.
The funny thing is that you mentioned the Canmore thing, because I remember before I was working in Edmonton. I had a subtrade that was working on site for us. I was working for a volume builder in the city, and then I'm like, hey, I have an opportunity to start a new business in Camrose. And he looks at me, and he's just like, wow, that's amazing. He's so excited and so thrilled, and I'm like, why is he so happy about Camrose? He's like, man, I just love the mountains. And I'm like,
the mountains.
And then he's like, and I tell him, you can see it, I tell him, I said, no, not Canmore, Camrose. And his face just like completely changed, right? And I'm like, okay, this will be interesting in terms of a change. But yeah, it's funny. The whole Canmore Camrose situation is still something.
Friends and family, like back in BC when I was like, it's the same thing. Mountains. Oh, good. You're still near the mountains. Yeah. Must be so nice. Hey, you're only a few hours from home. And it's like, yeah, no, that's Canmore. But honestly, I would pick Camrose over Canmore now. Like, it's a really nice community here and been treated real well. So I like it.
And I would agree with you. It's fun. It's still funny though. Can we do a name amendment, or can we add to the name, or
some history there, because it wasn't originally Camrose, right?
Okay, this is interesting. Sparling.
Yeah, was the town or hamlet of Sparling, but it was getting mixed up with Sterling and Spurling, like. Sperling is in southern Alberta, I guess, and Sparling is in Manitoba, so the post office kept getting it mixed up. So there's no real history that I could find as to why it changed to Camrose,
okay.
But that's the name now. But now it's getting mixed up with Canmore. I think we need to make Canmore change their name. Like,
Can we do a petition?
Yeah.
We should do a city petition. Citywide.
City petition.
Or
are they a
province petition?
town or a city?
They must be.
Canmore. I think it's a town. I think they're a town. If they're a town, that means we should get to choose, because Camrose is a city. That's another thing. Some people still think Camrose is a town. I'm going across town. Oh, really? Where? Daysland?
That's funny. And here's the problem, too, because I say, because you're right, Camrose is a city, but when I say I'm going to the city, Edmonton,
yeah.
automatically, right?
Yeah.
So it's like, oh, I have to go across the city, and they're like, people are like, oh, are you going to Edmonton? I'm like, no, just across the town. Like, it's... Yeah, we'll have to work on that.
We have to work on that.
See what we can come up with.
So you need a name for your podcast. We also need a new name for Camrose.
We'll talk about that later. And we don't want to get too controversial on renaming Camrose already.
You could call it like the Canmore Podcast.
That'd get a good audience, I think. And
Yeah.
we can talk about mountains just to start and kind of trick them, and then get them to something else, right? All right, a little on the lighter side. So on the way here, picking up a treat. Hope you like cookies. So I want to rate these cookies. So
All right.
grab a cookie. I'm gonna have a cookie too. You can have more if you want more.
I really have a sweet tooth, as anyone here would tell you. Like,
I do too. That's my problem.
Rate these cookies. It looks like we got, I'm guessing, chocolate coconut oatmeal.
Yep.
Well, it's really nice and moist. Here, let's get that on the mic. Hopefully that came on the audio.
We could. I'll add some sound effects after.
That is a really good cookie. It's just the two of us. I see you brought like a dozen, so I really appreciate that.
That's just more. I'll eat them with you. You don't have to eat more if you don't have to, but
there's a lot of things I don't have to do. But eating cookies is not on that list. That's a really good cookie.
Yeah? Impressed?
You said you listen to other podcasts. Do you listen to CBC in the morning? I think they have Edmonton's Greatest Snack.
Really?
Yeah, Edmonton's, and they every week, once a week, I think it's on Tuesdays, they rate a different snack and talk about it.
Really?
So yeah, I'd be down for a podcast like that as well.
And I think
it's a really good cookie. You said you picked them up.
Okay.
So they're not homemade, but they taste homemade.
Okay.
Am I guessing where they're coming from?
No, not even that. More just kind of talking about, okay, so on a scale of 1 to 10, I don't know, should we talk about taste, texture maybe? Is that an important factor to a cookie, you think?
It is. Some people like crunchy cookies, some like soft.
That's true.
That was a soft cookie.
That was soft. I love Subway cookies. Those are like white chocolate macadamia nut.
Yeah.
My favorite.
They're good, but that's definitely not a Subway cookie.
No, it's not. No. So if you want to talk about just general, how about overall rating out of 10?
Overall rating out of 10?
Yeah.
It's the first one, so I'd hate to give it a 10 to start off because I don't really have anything to compare it against, but it's a darn good cookie. So I will give that a 9.95.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's a good cookie. What about you?
Any other factors that we can rate on that cookie, you think?
I think, now that I think of that show, Edmonton's Greatest Snack, there's three things they
okay,
rate.
Yeah.
It's the taste,
yeah,
it's the texture, and it's the convenience. The convenience is like, if you're picking up a snack, is it going to leave you sticky? Or can you carry it in a bag?
So it's a taste, convenience, and
texture.
Texture, okay, yeah.
Yeah, and a soft cookie with that coconut. I'm going to give it like texture's not as important, so I don't think 10 is necessary. I'll give it a 4 out of 5 on texture.
Okay, yeah, okay. And convenience is?
Convenience. So you picked them up, they're in a bag, they taste delicious. 5 out of 5. It's a cookie.
Perfect.
So the grand total there.
Grand total of what arbitrary number we just picked there. Okay, so that's so I did pick up the cookies. They were homemade. My wife made them. So you did well.
So I did really well.
I was trying to trap you.
These taste homemade.
They do.
I'm like, but you said they picked them up on the way here, so
I want to mislead you just a little bit because just a little fun factor in terms of because just being honest, right? If I said my wife made these, you'd be like, okay, I have to be very careful how I judge these cookies. However, I want to see if maybe what we can incorporate in future episodes of actually picking up something from a local shop here and then doing the same thing just for fun. But this one was homemade, so you did well.
Good, yeah.
And I told my wife this was happening for the record.
Oh,
this was not like a.
It's like perfectly baked on the bottom too, a nice little golden.
She picked the best ones. She's like, this corner right here is perfect.
Is it from a recipe? Like, do you get those cookies all the time?
Oh yeah, yeah.
Nice.
Oh, I have to be careful. She's such a good baker and cook. I have to be super careful. But anyways, back to the topic at hand.
What are we talking about today?
What were we talking
Cookies?
about?
Food?
Yeah. Good. Wow. The cookies was super important, and we got that out of the way. Mm-hmm. So when it comes to city planning development, what are some of the challenges that you guys are facing right now as an organization? And is that more just kind of economic challenges? Is it challenges in terms of competition with, let's say, Edmonton? Are they a competitor? How does that work in terms of a city standpoint?
Yeah, development is it's like a cookie. There's never enough.
I like that. Good.
It's so first part. You kind of already hinted at it. Yeah, we're still in like this recovery, and I don't know, like it's just taking forever. I don't know. It's my first cycle in Alberta, right? Yeah. I still haven't been here that long, and I came in at the peak of the last boom. So it seems like a slow recovery, but at the same time, like the issues are oil and gas and mineral extraction and things like that, right? Mining mostly. And in Camrose, we're a little insulated from that. Of course, we've got some major players like the pipe plants, but we've also got the university, great health sector, government services. You've got agriculture, which is the backbone of this community. And you have some intermodal operations as well, because you've got the highways and rail and
so we're like a hub that a lot of things come through.
Yeah, there's very few communities the rest of the way all the way to the Saskatchewan border. So it is a centralized service area. There's a strong retail area, but yeah, businesses, a lot of them are they can deal with the short term downturns, but this is just going on and on and on. And our economic development officer, we have a new one, Patricia. And she's been here for, oh gosh, I better not.
The summer, right? I think
she's been here probably 5 months now. Yep. Maybe 6 actually. And she was a counselor at Wetaskiwin, and she's done a lot of work with economic development organizations, and I think she's an author as well. Great person to do a podcast with. Background's in criminology, I think. But don't want to get too sidetracked. But we've put a lot of trust in her to see what she can do to attract new businesses, and she has a lot of great ideas. Yeah. But new businesses and that's the reason why I'm talking about that is regional competition, right? Yeah. Whether it's Wetaskiwin, Leduc, Edmonton, Fort Saskatchewan, like you're all competing for new business, but most of your growth actually comes from existing businesses that are growing, expanding, hiring new people, offering new services or product. Yeah. And that's, I think that needs to be focused on a bit more, is how do we support our existing, like why do we need to bring in so many new businesses when we have established businesses that offer those same services that, perhaps there's a way for the city to work with them to develop additional properties, to grow, to succeed.
So on the business front, is that something that you're involved with, or is that Patricia?
No, it's more Patricia. Yeah. Sometimes it's connected though, right? You don't see a development project unless there's economic development behind it. So we play mostly the regulatory part in planning and development and the approvals, but we work very closely, right? If somebody wants to develop a new project, not only is it important that they're making that investment, but that they understand, the rules and regulations. So we try to communicate that up front to them, just so that they understand.
It's like if someone goes buys a building thinking they can do X, Y, and Z with it, and all of a sudden they're applying for permits, and X, Y, Z is actually doesn't even fit the land use of it.
Right, whether it's land use or building code reasons or area structure plan reasons. Right. Like there's a multitude of regulations and different layers. They all have a different purpose, but really when it comes down to it, the rules are in place to set a community standard for development. And and that's what we do.
Right.
You don't develop industrial right up against residential because it's an incompatible use.
Right.
You don't put a cannabis production facility or cannabis retail store, hot topic right now, no pun intended. You don't put that in the middle of a residential community, right?
Yeah.
So that's what planning's about. It's the separation of those uses to make sure that you have compatible uses that work well together.
So when you talk about planning in general, how far into the future is the city looking? Like what is there a short-term plan that is in stage of a long-term plan? And when you start thinking of that long-term plan, is there aspects to that of where you're looking at it as, like, let's say a new subdivision or a new area? Are you guys looking at like what types of institutions are going to be in there, in terms of whether that's schools, hospitals, churches? Like what does that look like?
Most of I mentioned it earlier. There's different layers. There's different regulations and different plans, and our municipal development plan and council's strategic plan are the main visionary documents.
Right.
And then into that you have feeding your master plans, so your water master plan, your sanitary master plan, you've got your area structure plans, and then eventually the development permits. So everything sort of, if the direction is set and the principles and goals of that strategy are understood, then you can carry it through down to actual specific actions that will lead you to that goal. So there's some of those things are mandated by the province, other is just good planning practices. Right. So if we get a new community, we do consider things like, if there's a few hundred homes that are planned, do we need a school? So we send a referral to all school boards, and we have 3 here in Camrose now. We send that information to utility providers, ATCO, Fortis, TELUS, Eastlink, so they can plan their infrastructure. It's a coordinated effort.
And what's the time frame of, like, when you start to kind of send those referrals out and looking for feedback?
I think it's about 21 days.
That it?
I think so.
Really? Okay.
Well, we engage with people early on in the process.
Okay, yeah.
So the referrals is the formal part of it.
Yeah.
But if there's something like a new community that's planned, like I'll use an example, Stony Ridge, which is a community that's just been approved to be developed south of the Creekview subdivision, we have a formal requirement to send referrals to those agencies, but we also involve them in really early in the process. So it's like, hey, this is coming. Do you have student projections to send us or something like that? So, yeah. And the partners that we work with are really good. So there's, even though the city is involved in the regulatory side and the development of those long-range plans, it's really only a piece of the whole development picture. You're involved in the development picture, right? You actually build the homes, do the designs, things like that. So it's just everybody plays a part, and there's always people that are willing to step in, especially on the side of some of our utility providers, to get us information that helps us make those decisions before we actually get to subdivision stage.
Of course, because obviously if you want to have the structure in place to handle whatever you're going to do with it, right? Mm-hmm. Otherwise, poor planning, that never happens, right?
It does happen.
On this topic,
yeah.
Okay, your thoughts on South Common?
South Common?
In Edmonton. I feel like, so everyone has an opinion about South Common in terms of I feel like it's always negative, in terms of just like access, all the stores, just transportation through it. It just seems like a gong show. Could be totally wrong. I don't know.
You just answered your own question.
I want you. You don't have to answer the question as a planner.
Well,
but
I'll answer it as a planner, because you don't want to know my personal opinion, but. As a planner, it makes sense to keep your large-scale retail outlet stores separated. And that's mostly and separated from other uses. That's why you don't see a lot of integrated uses there. You don't see like university satellite campus, or you don't see like more boutique style shopping, and you don't see multi-use residential.
So when you're saying the large retail,
Yeah.
Is that so? So like there's okay, Best Buy. I'd say that's large retail.
Yeah.
But are you throwing like an Old Navy? Is that considered large retail too?
Well, you have your anchor tenants in there, and then you have a
Oh,
whole
I
bunch
see.
of
Gotcha.
supportive uses,
Got
right?
it,
That
yeah.
want to be there because, as you said, that people are driving there. There's lots of traffic.
Yeah.
Traffic means more visual exposure. More visual exposure means more people might stop there.
Right.
So they have a tendency to cluster together.
Yeah.
And if you don't design the roads properly, clustering leads to traffic problems, which
Yeah.
leads to frustration.
Yes. Which never happens in Camrose.
Well,
No
it's no South Edmonton. It's all a matter of scale. I can give you an example on my own street, like because when we moved here
Yeah.
from pretty much downtown Calgary, and I live in the Grandview area, so you know the whole.
Yeah.
It's a whole nother podcast on like the barricade issue. Remember that in West Grandview? But it was like, I remember moving in and my neighbors being like, "Oh, now that those barricades are up, this is such a busy street, and some people use it as the shortcut to Boston Pizza." And then when the bridge was out and
Oh, yeah.
Grand Drive was being used, and
yeah.
people are taking shortcuts. So for me, I'm thinking, oh, busy street, like a vehicle every 10 seconds or so, like what is that?
Right, yeah.
But no, it's like a vehicle every 10 minutes. It's a busy street. Oh man, it's just a scale thing. I'm used to it now. Now I do complain about the big city traffic, but when I first came here, it's like, whoa, really? That's a traffic problem?
Yeah, I think the biggest for myself, the biggest limiting in terms of traffic. I don't think we have a traffic issue. Is always if someone's driving a certain under the speed limit and you can't pass them, and you're like
under the speed limit in Camrose. It happens.
It happens. Like especially Marler or the Ring Road. There's no passing. There's no nothing. You're like, I'm just trying to get somewhere in time.
On time, yeah. Well, you get so used to every trip taking 5 minutes if there's a slight delay. Like nobody leaves an hour early.
Nobody,
here, right?
No, and that's so true. And it's funny, like, and the scale thing that you mentioned is so true in the sense of, my wife and I, we lived in Strathcona County, just on the north side of Cooking Lake. So when we need anything, we'd go to Sherwood Park. That's 20-25 minutes. Got used to that, right? So we moved to Camrose. Everything's 5 minutes away. Amazing. We hit McDonald's, Tim Hortons, like all the fast food places, just because they're so readily available now, right? It's like, oh, I'll just hop my truck and go get it. But now it's like, oh, it's on the east side of town, which is still 5 minutes away, but it's like, oh, it's across town. See, town. I'm using that word again.
Town. It's across town. A whopping 5 minutes. To
I
get
know,
across
right?
town.
But it's like living here for 3 years now. You're right. You get accustomed to it.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden you go to the city and you hit Anthony Hendon's backed up. It's like, I think you like instant road rage because you're not used to it,
yeah.
right?
No.
It doesn't happen in Camrose unless it's construction.
We do get calls sometimes from businesses in the industrial park because most of the fast food style restaurants are on the west end of the city.
Yeah.
And we have received calls in the past. I've received calls from citizens that are like, "Hey, just so you know, I'll give you the best example I have. Just so you know, I've got an hour for lunch and I went to Edo, Japan. And I barely got back to my work in the industrial park in time." And I was like, oh, and they're like, just, your traffic volumes, just make sure you do the bridge replacement, make it wider, make things bigger. It's very close to not being able to do things in your lunch hour. I'm like, wow, that's like to drive all the way across and order there, eat and come back. To me, it's still shocking that you can do that and then not think that like, maybe you won't get back in time.
Right.
The one time.
Right.
But rush hour in Camrose is between 12 and 12:10 and 12:50 and 1 o'clock, right?
Right.
Because everybody goes home or goes out for lunch. And that was something that was a culture change here too, because I'm just used to either packing lunch or walking somewhere for lunch because, gosh, you don't hop in your vehicle to drive somewhere for lunch. That's crazy. Why would you mix up that traffic?
Yeah, exactly.
You'll never make it. Not a chance.
So true. And I know my wife's cousin, he lives in BC. Oh, is he Surrey or is he Vancouver? But anyways, he took a screenshot of his GPS, and his commute in the morning, I think, was an hour and a half one way. And I'm like, that is horrendous. And I'm so like, Camrose has such a blessing to have 5 minutes. And you're right, if you get a little bit of traffic, 10 minutes, heaven forbid. But it's true, you kind of get frustrated already.
You get used to it, yeah.
But you're right, but no one leaves early enough. Like I always am like, if it's 5 minutes, I'm like, on the dot, right?
Right.
I'm like actually running late probably already.
Yeah, and then the expectation is like you show up if you had to wait at a stop sign for a minute. It's like, you know what? Look at this traffic making me late by a minute.
It's the traffic's fault.
Yeah. You're just gonna leave those cookies over there? You're gonna pass
Cookie number 2.
leave
Like,
something from the staff.
it's perfect. Give me
Oh
some-
no! Oh, there's. Wow. We'll see about this one. Maybe they firmed
might
up
be.
a little bit.
I'll
now.
move this out of the
Yeah,
way.
out of the. move that out of
Okay, so with kind of the
Really
planning and everything, still good?
the way. Yeah, still good.
Rating hasn't changed?
Really good.
I should have brought milk. Are you a milk guy? Milk and cookie kind of
I
guy?
actually don't like milk.
No?
No.
Somewhere we disagree, I guess. So you kind of touched base a little bit on the roles of what you do for with the city here. What are your thoughts in terms of kind of like, obviously the city has taken on a big role with the city renovation, or the pool renovation.
Yeah.
Yeah. How's that going?
Oh, the pool renovation.
I know. I think hot topic, is it? I don't know. Maybe.
I don't have a good pun there. Wet topic, but it's not.
Cannabis stories again.
Yeah. It's the pool is. Well, we're sort of just floundering around, I guess. No,
Yeah.
I try to think of a good one. It's the pool project, like it's an old structure.
Yeah. How old exactly?
I don't know. I wasn't too involved in the project. But with those cedar beams in there, you never know what you're going to get until you start opening it up.
Right.
But with a reasonable level of confidence, things seem to be under control. We did as much investigative work as we could, short of actually taking things down.
Right.
But you never have certainty about anything in construction. So what happened?
No
is,
comment.
Yeah, well, I'm sure you have comments offline. But once you once they opened up the walls, there was some issue, and I think it was where the steel joints met those beams. Some of them were rotting and needed to be replaced, and it's one of those unexpected things where you do all this upfront work and all of this pre-planning, and you still miss something major because it's so specialized,
right,
to do that sort of investigation, that had somebody gone out and spent money to do that assessment beforehand and everything been okay, like it looked visually,
right,
it'd be seen as a huge waste of money. So it's always a balance, but so it is proceeding on budget and on schedule for the new revised schedule and new revised budget.
So what are the?
I think that's August of next year.
Okay. Awesome. Good news.
Hopefully not many people listen to your first episode. You have to build because I'm not sure.
I'm gonna sponsor this everywhere.
I'm not sure if it's actually August, but I think it's close to August of next year.
Okay. Moving. Just go ahead.
Expensive.
You don't say. Construction expensive? No.
But I will say that it's going to be really nice when it's done.
Yeah.
So there'll be a brand new lane pool separated from the recreation area.
Yeah.
And the recreation area is going to have everything people would expect in a pool. The temperature is going to be higher because it used to be real cold in there.
Yes.
Temperature is going to be higher. It's going to be all new amenities. There's going to be the lazy river and all the kids play area stuff. Like it'll be nice when it's done.
Okay, I was gonna. So in relation, so I'm using Wetaskiwin as a reference just because we've gone there so much. They have the same thing, I think, like where the lane pools, the hot tub, the lazy river. Are we talking about something very similar to that, or a little bit more extensive, or what in terms of an idea? What is the scope of it actually?
It's pretty similar.
Similar.
There'll still be areas that look like an older structure because we still have it's still a renovation.
Yeah.
But a lot of it will be modernized and updated. But in terms of actual pool area and pool use, very, very similar to what Wetaskiwin's done. I think we have one water slide instead of two, but yeah. I never go down
better than no water.
I never go down that red scary tunnel one.
Have you gone in it though?
I went in it once, and once was enough.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I
go there with my kids, and it's like, but you can't go down two at once.
But I've seen people do it.
Yeah, well,
I know.
I'm not a rule breaker because
I'm not either.
My entire job is rules. I'm not going to break them.
Well, it's funny because I know I've seen people do it, which with the attendee there. Is that what whoever lifeguard on top there, whatever they are, on top of the slides there. But like, yeah, the blue one's fantastic. But that red one, man, I enjoy. I rather do the blue one too, because every time I do the red one, my heart, like, I can feel my heart like pressing into my spine because of all the G's you're hitting on.
Yeah,
and I'm like, ooh, that was uncomfortable, but kind of fun.
Definitely fun.
I'm a roller coaster guy. So talking about cameras in general. So tell me one thing you really, really like about cameras or love, and then maybe one that maybe not so much, or one thing cameras can improve on. And that can be either, I don't know if you want to take that from a city perspective or from a personal perspective, or just your opinion on that.
Yeah, we've covered a lot of things that I think I like about cameras. It just sort of naturally comes out now when I'm bragging about living here.
Yeah.
One thing that I really like that we haven't talked about is the walking trails. I love the trail system in Camrose. I get out on it as much as I can, and now that I've got a couple of young kids, it's just as nice. It's a good place to explore and go for a walk, and it runs right down the middle of the city so that you still have access to things when you need it. Like, there's washrooms, and of course you got Oleos, which is pretty good. And
he's gone now.
For the year,
Sorry, I didn't mean like he's gone.
Yeah, and then the train rides. I think I really like the walking paths, and I guess an extension of that is I like the park spaces.
Yeah,
because all those walking paths are surrounded by really nicely manicured and maintained park spaces. Yeah. And so talking about future growth and future communities, that's not going to change. That's one of our requirements going to developers is, you have to maintain that park system. You're not allowed to build in the ravine. You're not allowed to build too close to it. We've got the ski trails. We've got other active users down there that we want to protect and preserve that, because I think it makes Camrose a really great place to live.
Yep, agreed.
One thing that I don't like so much about Camrose,
or we can improve on either one. No.
Oh man, you know what? It is a podcast. I'm not going to throw anyone under the bus, but I wish we could do more trees along roadways instead of concrete everywhere. I really do.
So okay, expand on that.
Well, 48th Avenue is a really good example, but there's others where design standards have changed. Like in a lot of older areas, like my street, there's trees on both sides, and it's beautiful. It's a beautiful fall day out there right now. You got the yellows mixed with still a little bit of green, leaves everywhere.
So are you thinking like more the sidewalks on, like the median?
Yeah,
the sidewalk and the
boulevards on the side as well as down the middle. Though we do these real big concrete medians down the middle, and a lot of communities plant trees in them, or native grasses or things like that. I think it looks a little bit more attractive, and you're always trying to balance the look with the maintenance cost of doing that. Yeah. But I'm wondering, like, on some of our main roads, if we can't just, think of them a little bit differently, not just as a way to move people from point A to point B, but something that provides some visual interest in and of itself. So, including local roads. You go down to Valley View or Creek View or other communities that have been developed since about 1994, and there just aren't boulevard trees anymore. And I like them. I really like boulevard trees. I wish there were more trees.
I agree with you, and I think so. How does that? Is that more trying to make it more like? I don't know, not art. Art's probably not. Maybe it is the right word. Maybe more, like trying to hit more of an aesthetic. Yeah. Like a natural aesthetic. Is that kind of what you guys are talking about?
Yeah. So there's, I like the trees because of trees themselves. They provide a certain amount of natural beauty in an urban area. Yeah. But from a planning perspective, they actually do a number of different things. You have trees with a large canopy. It creates a tunneling effect. When people are driving, it naturally slows down traffic on residential streets without having to post speed limits. People drive slower
because of the visuals,
right? Yeah. It also, during the summer, they filter sunlight and they create shade, as well as allow some sunlight through, but you're not walking directly into the sun. It's a nice. They're just nice to have. I love trees. Have you seen the tree sweaters, or I don't know what they're calling them?
Did you say the trees? Oh, the tree huggers?
Tree huggers, yeah.
I've seen some,
Yeah, I like that. That's a neat idea. I didn't know they were planning that.
And you're in planning, and you didn't know that?
No, the Arts Council, they're just so spontaneous sometimes. Yeah. I didn't know about the mandala, too. Have you seen that?
No, I haven't.
Well, you should go take a drive down to the Chuck McLean Arts Center. The entire parking lot is a big mandala.
Really?
Yeah. It's pretty cool. They just go out and do things like artists usually do. But I guess I should also say I'm getting pretty nitpicky. Like, well, we could have more boulevard trees. It's not like that's a pretty minor thing.
Yeah,
Like,
for sure.
In terms of what would I change and what don't I like.
Yeah.
It's not like some communities where it's like, I really hate that big industrial plant with that big pulp mill or something like that just really wrecks the place. Or, I don't like the environmental issues, or I don't like the people or the homelessness or whatever the case may be. Here, that's a pretty minor issue.
Yeah.
And I think even the last election, last municipal election, I remember a moment when I was sitting in the audience listening to people talk about the issues in Camrose. It was like this, what to do with the ski jump. Urban chickens, whether we should be allowing them or not.
Are they allowed?
No, they're not.
Okay.
Another podcast
on urban
Andre's moments. But those are such minor issues when you step back and think about it. Like it's a pretty well-run place and a pretty nice city to live in. It just those minor issues, like the commute, seem like big issues until you go elsewhere.
And I think you're totally right. I think it's very it's all relative, right? Kind of like what you're dealing with, right? I think if you had bigger fish to fry, I don't think ski jumping, urban chickens, and traffic would never be on the list if we had bigger issues to deal with. And like I said, obviously first world problems.
Bigger fish to fry, like goldfish. Another real big issue, right?
Are you even serious?
Yeah, we have a goldfish issue. We think we have a goldfish issue.
A goldfish
Yeah,
issue?
we think one of the ponds has somebody dumped goldfish in them. And they're a really invasive species.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay, please. This just got good.
So, goldfish. There's goldfish that have been dumped in a lot of Alberta's streams, rivers, and lakes, and even natural retention or man-made retention ponds at this point.
Yeah.
And they decimate local fish populations.
Really?
They reproduce extremely fast. They live through the winter, and they eat the bottom of the food chain. So,
oh wow!
Yeah.
Oh, I see. Okay, wow.
So if anyone's listening out there, don't dump your goldfish.
Don't flush in the toilet.
No,
is that bad? Well,
yes, that's bad.
Well, hang on a second. Okay, speaking of flushing things on the toilet.
Let's finish on the goldfish first. Don't put them down the toilet. Don't put them down the
But
toilet.
here's my question. So if you flush them down the toilet, through the whole system, will they end up in the pond, or will they die through the filtration system?
They would end up, in that case, they'd end up in the sewage lagoons. But I think there's evidence that they can even live through that. These things are incredibly hardy. But if you put them down your drain, or if you put them in the pond, they're going to end up in the storm system, which eventually ends up in the creek system. And then there goes your pike and brown trout and burbot and all the fish that I love to fish for. They're very invasive. You should see a picture. Like, they get big too. Like, they're carp.
I thought you were kidding.
No, the goldfish problem is a serious problem.
Wow.
Well, it might not be. We still haven't been able to until you catch one. I've tried. I can tell you they don't like canned corn. I thought they did. I read online that they did.
Really?
Yeah, I tried to catch one once we found out there was one we heard that there was one in the Cascades Pond and sent somebody out with a fish finder, and it appears as though there was one, but that's just not enough evidence. And then what to do with it? Like, what do you do? Do you drain down the pond? No, because they can survive.
So when you're talking about ponds, like what are we talking? Like you said, Cascades.
Yeah.
Are we talking like bigger pools, bodies of water as well? Like in Camrose? Really? Eh? Wow.
Yeah. Just the only one we're aware of is the Cascades Pond, but I wouldn't be surprised if there's goldfish in other ponds. Personally, just because they're everywhere in Alberta now.
I did not think we were talking about goldfish.
You have to check it out. It's a big problem.
I'm going to post that. Goldfish is awesome. All right, goldfish are...
There's an explainer video that we put out on the city's social media feeds that talks about the damages of goldfish. So
I'll be honest. If I saw that video, I probably wouldn't take you seriously.
Oh,
just because, like, when you said goldfish, I seriously, I'm like...
You still don't know if I'm being serious.
No, I believe
I'm being
you.
Serious.
I believe you now, but I'm like, when you're like, talking about bigger fish to fry, and you said goldfish, and I'm like...
Yeah, I guess we haven't done a good job of really communicating that issue too much yet.
Well, especially... not especially, but in the sense of it is actually a serious issue. I'm saying, like, it's a very hard thing to, like, sell to people, because, like, it'd be different if you said, like... wild dogs running around the cameras is a problem, and because I can see a dog hurting someone, but like a goldfish, it's like, oh, it's just a little fish.
Yeah.
Oh. Anything else to add to the goldfish?
One of the really interesting things is to survive winter so there's sometimes a lot of fish kill of natural species in Alberta because of the low oxygen levels in the winter.
Yeah.
With all the ice buildup, the water just doesn't get enough oxygen. Goldfish excrete this sort of alcohol-based substance and insulate themselves over winter. They essentially hibernate so that they can survive. When I said they're hardy, they're really hardy. Their eggs can survive in mud through pretty much anything. So that's why draining down a pond, you'll kill the fish, but you might not kill the eggs.
Huh.
Yeah.
Wow.
Goldfish.
Wow. Okay.
Asian carp. Let's not call them goldfish. Goldfish is too nice of a name.
It is a nice name. That's what, like, Asian carp, like, if you said Asian carp, I'm like, holy
Asian...
crap, we need to let everyone know about Asian carps.
Yeah. Will you sign this petition to get all the dihydrogen monoxide out of the air?
Which is what?
H2O.
Oh, thanks. Really? Oh, I see. It's because of the way you're saying it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's dihydrogen monoxide. Yeah, sure, I'll sign that petition. It's just water vapor.
Water. Don't insult me, Aaron.
I won't.
Thank you.
I saw that. That was a study that was done when I was at UBCO, and it was really funny, collecting signatures on everybody that was opposed to dihydrogen monoxide.
Sheesh. Okay, do you have to be done 2:30, or do you have a little bit more?
Let me just do a quick check here. I'm good until 3:30 actually. So
okay, well, let's keep
it rolling.
A little longer. I like this. This is good.
You're gonna be editing for days.
You know, my goal is to the editing itself. I think is gonna be pretty natural in terms of what it is. In terms of, like you mentioned Joe Rogan. A lot of these video podcasts, it's just
straight cut.
Yeah. But the biggest thing is gonna be like the snippets, pulling them out, like
right.
The Asian carp.
Here's Aaron talking about development in cameras, right? If you just want that part,
yes, that's gonna take me a long time, which is fine. I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, that would be the sub. What are they called? Subcasts. When you do your podcast, is the full one. Then the subcast is the snippets.
Oh yeah, because you can you generate more content.
You can generate more content. You could call it the full one could be Substance of Andre.
Okay, since we're on this topic, the two names. Yeah. My wife didn't want me talking about this because we're still we're brainstorming.
Well, I've mentioned a lot of things that my wife probably wouldn't want me to talk about, so at least we got some cookies. Thank you.
Hey, you want some more? Here,
No. I gotta save some for the staff.
Oh, fair enough. I'll bring more next time. I didn't even think about it.
Thanks for the cookies.
So talking about names. So I had two names in mind. One was Behind the Building, which that's the one I don't like. Yeah, I'll take that as something, as an insight. This chair's really squeaky. The other one's going to be The Scale of Building. And my goal of that one, the reason I like that one is because the goal of the podcast is some of it's construction related. A lot of it's actually community focused, influencer focused, more educational, more value. And the reason I like The Scale of Building is because it's not just building a building, it's building community as well. That's why I like that one. Behind the Building, I'm like, yeah, I like that one.
Yeah, Behind the Building, there's sometimes questionable activities behind the building.
That's you. The other one that I like too is like kind of ones like behind closed doors. And how about Between Two Ferns? No, that's not going to work. I think I'll get sued.
Yeah, you would. I love that one. Between Two Ferns.
What do you think of the scale of building?
I like it. Yeah. Scale of building.
The scale of building.
The scale of building. Yeah,
and then as we grow, obviously I think it'll naturally come that it's not just building like buildings. Because my goal is actually to have sub-trades on here too of like being in like things to people, educational, getting to know people more. So, but I like that one.
That's good.
Yeah, you like that?
I like it. Yeah.
Here's a really funny one. The way I got this name is I was looking for ideas, and there's a podcast name generator online.
Really?
So you put your name.
There's an app for that.
There's an app
for everything.
You put your name in. You put your focus, like what you're talking about, and then the city you're in, right? And then the one lady I was talking to, that I do a lot of work with, she said, Keeping Up with Cameras, and then she's like, it'll be like Keeping Up with the Kardashians and everything. I'm like, no thanks.
It's not that kind of show.
No, it's not.
Well, maybe it is. It's his show.
Never mind. All right.
I'm just the guest. I came prepared for whatever. So mimosas then? Is that what they do on Keeping Up with the Kardashians?
You know
I don't watch it, but
I don't. I should have brought maybe wine next time. But anyways,
do they drink wine? I thought they just go out for breakfast and then they do like old 90s shots of LA and play music in the background and that's it. Like,
is that what they do?
Well, I have no idea.
It's a
reality. I
should
keep trying to guess.
It's a reality. It's one of those reality shows. I don't know. It's the funny thing about reality TV is that you the way it's perceived, and then you hear the stories of like, okay, so that was staged, or if something happens, I could be totally wrong. This is all rumors because I'm not in the industry, but it's like apparently if something happens, like if I had a fight and we had it behind the cameras aren't around, we would reenact the fight for the production.
Oh, really?
Wouldn't that be weird?
Reality TV is just weird at this point, right? It's gone so far beyond the Survivor to just following people around that might lead interesting lives.
But people watch it.
I have a couple guilty pleasures,
Okay.
On reality TV.
And
Jersey Shore is my number one reality TV show.
Actually, I think I saw you mention on Facebook. Really?
I know it's a relic from younger days, but it's my guilty pleasure. I used to watch it. When, of course, like the Okanagan is very much like Jersey Shore lifestyle.
Yeah, that's
and
true.
And so it was like, it was interesting at that time, and now it's like I want to know what these people are doing now that they've had kids. They're growing up, and like. Sort of the same sort of thing.
Is it
right?
Is it Jersey Shore again, or is it?
It's still Jersey Shore. They go to other places though. Like I think, there's an episode that I'm gonna be watching tonight where they're in Vegas or something like that.
So next podcast we'll see how that episode went.
Yeah. What other reality TV shows? Gold Rush. I really like Gold Rush.
Yeah.
On Discovery. Oh gosh, they're not doing another season. It's Canada's Worst Driver.
You like that?
I like Canada's Worst Driver. I just don't like how many Albertans are on it.
So true.
I think that's about it for my reality TV shows. Like, I don't watch a whole lot of it, but those are the ones that I do.
Like
Bar Rescue.
What's that?
Bar Rescue is when this guy John Taffer, he goes in and rescues failing bars and turns them around. And it's usually like either the owner's like just a jerk or just an absentee owner. Mismanagement's another one. Yeah. Sometimes bartenders stealing or drinking on the job. Like those are the major things. But I like watching it because he gets really worked up and angry at these people and then straightens them out.
And do most people stick around for the straightening out, or
sometimes like if some of those like bartenders and servers, they'll just be like, I'm not dealing with this. See ya.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll go work across the street.
Yeah, that's a tough industry. I'm not.
Yeah, it is. What about you? Any reality TV?
My wife likes. We both like Amazing Race. That's a good one.
Yeah.
Amazing Race Canada and the American one. That's about it. We used to like way back in the day. Big Brother was a big one that we enjoyed. Now it's like.
Amazing Race, I used to watch it, but then I realized I have such a hard time calming down and going to bed after that show.
Oh, great!
And I only get like an hour to myself without kids.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I've watched season after season after season of it, and then I was like, I really do like sleep. Well, maybe I'll do that instead. Amazing Race was one. It's like. Yeah, I watch TV to relax. Not for entertainment. It's just like I just need to shut off for a little bit. Yeah. And that one was like I need to pay attention. I'm into it. I like these places that they're traveling to.
Right. So. And it's super interesting. Like they the production value is so high.
Yeah.
They do such a good job.
Can we talk about this mic?
No, put the mic down.
Is that the one from Star Wars? I've got the lightsaber.
Is that what it is?
Well, no, it's there's the one where it's like the training where Luke Skywalker is training in A New Hope, and he's got the lightsaber and the thing's like that's what it looks
kind of reminds me of that.
Shooting with the lasers. Yeah, I like it.
I like it too. Well, we'll see. Yeah.
All right,
we're working on that. Okay,
so you mentioned rambling podcast.
You mentioned two things in the beginning here of what was it? You mentioned the downtown redevelopment plan. What is the goal of this redevelopment?
Well, the goal is to have a reinvigorated and vibrant downtown. We want more people living downtown to support more commercial businesses downtown.
Yeah.
We want more institutional uses downtown, whether it's health or education, those sorts of things.
Yeah.
We just want to create. Downtown Camrose has a lot to build on. Downtown's more than just Main Street. It's actually 36 city blocks. It includes your location over there on 46th Street. A lot of old single-family homes. So the downtown as an area has a lot of really good bones already. So we're just building off of what's there. It's not like we have to create a new downtown, or if we've only got one or two interesting buildings like Leduc or Fort Saskatchewan or St. Albert, where they're like, they have to build a downtown up from nothing. We've already got a great downtown. We're just looking at interventions to improve it in a couple areas.
So how from the city planning aspect, how do you guys do that? Because and the reason I'm asking that is like from a business standpoint, you have business owners or landlords that buy these buildings, right? How can the city assist in any shape or fashion when you have huge capital that needs to be put into it, whether it's renovations or just even businesses being able to survive in the economic climate that we're in right now?
Yeah, not a whole lot. I'd be misleading your many viewers if
there are many, or there will be many.
Shout out to your wife's cookies again. They're delicious.
Might have to make that a staple. I don't know. She'll like that.
Are you gonna bring the cookies around to everyone?
Yeah, you can share those with
No,
them.
like different podcast, or something
the
different.
cookies, yeah. So
I'm getting sidetracked.
That's okay. The cookies.
Not trying to deflect from city inaction on downtown development.
A future politician right there. Just, how about the cookies?
Yeah.
No.
Is that a baby to kiss?
Wait in that room. No, it's the cookies is more just a kind of a fun little feature to see whether it's gonna be the cookies all the time, or like even giving a nice shout out to a local bakery. Not a critique, and not an actual critique of these cookies are really dry. The reason I let you kind of go full throttle there is because it's my wife's cookies. And I know they're good, but a 9.95 or whatever, it was up there. I was impressed.
They're really good cookies.
But I have more cookies. Maybe I'll bring them by tomorrow.
Downtown. There's not really a lot that we can do. We can nudge things in a certain direction, but there's regional and national and international economics at play.
Right.
What power does any one municipality have to really affect that?
Right.
If we could, we would. But there's a lot more at play. So what we can do, and what I hope we accomplish through the Downtown Area Development Plan, is set good policy so that you have, if a development application comes forward, make sure they build to the sidewalk so that you can have a nice visual interest for the building. Make sure you use timeless materials, things like that. Try and add in a bunch of density in areas where it makes sense. And number one is do what we can to develop some of the vacant lots downtown. There's a lot of vacant properties. Of course, economics, again, does it make sense to develop them? How am I going to secure a tenant? Even for residential, it's difficult to do. Well, the city's got one lot for sale downtown. It's still actively for sale. It's across the street from the old feed mill, kitty corner to the library.
That building's beautiful, by the way.
I love that building, yeah. So we'd like to see that, but we can make capital investments to what the city does have, and the city has a lot of assets downtown. We've got the underground utilities, we've got the roads, we've got the sidewalks, we've got trees, signage, things like that, lighting. So one project right now that's underway, and it's definitely polarizing, but I think it's going to come out really good, is the bulb outs and sidewalk widening at 50th Street and 51st Avenue, right at the Aaron's Electronics.
Oh yeah, right there.
Yeah. It's right now it seems really narrow because of the paving's not in yet and the lines aren't down, so the lanes, they do sort of shift a little bit through that area. But it was to create a larger plaza-like area where people can gather for the Christmas tree lighting or other things, just to make that end look a little bit nicer. So we try to align those capital projects with the goals of the Downtown Area Development Plan.
Awesome. Okay, jumping over to another redevelopment plan, the ARP.
Augustana. Yeah.
So you mentioned that you guys are starting to analyze kind of what are you guys doing?
What we're doing right now, and that's a good question and good timing for that question. We actually received proposals from three consultants yesterday. So we're in the review stages of those proposals right now, and we will, I think by October 9th, select a consultant to proceed with to make some updates to that area redevelopment plan. Right now, it's very restrictive as what you can do in there, and for good reason. There's a lot of there's a lot of old homes, a lot of heritage properties that you want to protect, and if there is redevelopment, you want that to fit in, while preserving what's there as best as possible. But with this project, we hope to encourage more redevelopment in that area. Maybe change some of the requirements to the lot restrictions. Grow the area a little bit, because I know the university has some plans in that area now that they've acquired a bunch of property, and hopefully do some more capital investment on the sidewalk rehabilitation side. So there's some changes that we'd like to make that are all detailed in our briefing for that plan. Timeline, hopefully we have that done by the middle of next year.
Okay. So when it comes to the
and I should mention, we do plan for all the viewers. We do plan to do rigorous and detailed and lots of public engagement. So look for updates on the blog. The blog is on our website. Nope, it's actually not on our website yet. That's a different project.
It's under the Asian carp section.
Yeah. Actually, we don't have a blog set up yet because we haven't awarded the contract, but there will be one set up, and we'll do lots of public engagement. So look for updates in the paper, your mailbox, social media, places like that.
So how do you handle? Okay, so I know some of the struggles the city really has when it comes to changing something so massive in terms of a redevelopment plan. From a construction standpoint, like I always think, like, someone's taking the risk, right? It's always going to be either the developer or a homeowner wants to do something with a piece of land. Now they have the huge capital on the purchase of the land. Let's say demolition of the house. Now, my thoughts are, when you're doing something like that and you already have so much invested, now to do a single family dwelling, it's expensive.
Very expensive,
right? And then I think that's where Edmonton. When you talk, like, let's talk infill in Edmonton. I think that's a polarizing aspect already.
Sure is.
And I know some of the feedback I've heard in Canada is on the same front. But how this, when it has to make dollars and cents for everyone involved, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if you're going to build a house, a single family dwelling, it's going to cost you X amount of dollars. Let's say if the end value is undervalued, you spent, let's just say $800,000. Maybe that's excessive. Let's just say that. But then your house is worth $750 or $700. And you're never going to sell it. I find that very restrictive in the sense of, because no one's going to do that.
Yeah, it is.
Right?
And I think that's one of the areas where the existing plan missed the mark a little bit. Is the existing plan would have worked really well for Edmonton or Calgary, where somebody's building a $1.2 million house or a $1 million side-by-side duplex, something like that. It would have worked really well, but when you have all those upfront investments and then the end product is worth less, there's very few people that are willing to make that investment unless they really love that area, right? If this is going to be their forever home, they're not going to care about that. But there's not enough people in that niche that's going to drive development enough to meet the objectives of that plan.
Absolutely.
So we do need to open it up more, for sure. And I think there's some willingness in the community to do that, as long as it meets certain design criteria and design principles. We'll hear from them. I know we will. They're a very active community association, and that's good. You always want civic involvement in these plans. We're not doing this. We don't do this. Well, I do it because I like it, but that's not the only reason. We do this to encourage development and protect historical assets and try and work on some synergies with community in mind. We do this not for people. We do it with them. We work with them on what they think the vision for their community should be. But it does need to be balanced against the people that are making those investments.
Right.
And
so
nothing will stay the same.
Right.
There's a reason why you don't see single-family homes in New York. Eventually, everybody sells because of the land value.
Yep.
So you have to grow and adapt with what you see, and that's why these plans need to get evaluated, and that's what we're doing.
But yeah, so when we're talking about, like, you know, the capital investment, as you mentioned, for it to make sense for everyone involved, we're talking density. Like, we have
there's no beating. I'm trying to beat around the bush, but yeah, we're talking density. We're talking more people in the same amount of area.
Right. So obviously with the ARP, I know you guys are, like you mentioned, in the beginning stages of that. So we can leave that point. But as a trend, that's kind of happening on the newer developments. That's, you know, I know, like, single family is still very popular in Camrose.
Very.
And I think is that more because we just have the space, like cameras can continue to grow.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. But in terms of density, and I think we were talking a little bit beforehand, in terms of, like, the affordability factor. What is Camrose going to be focusing on when it comes to these new developments that are coming down the pipeline? Is it a little bit of both? Is it mixed? Is it single focused?
It's well, again, we can't really control the economics. So we try to nudge.
Yeah.
In new communities, our focus, I would say, is on a concept called complete communities. A complete community is somewhere where you can, it's a little cliche, live, work, and play. All within one.
Very
all within one area.
Yeah.
Live, work, play, and learn, I guess, is the new one.
Wow.
So I'll throw that in there.
Yeah.
But the idea is to have communities where it's not just a single type of land use, like single-family homes. That there are duplexes, fourplexes, multi-unit developments, including low-rise buildings. I don't think we'll ever see anything higher than 4 stories for the foreseeable future in Camrose.
So what is explain a
low-rise? A low-rise apartment is about a 4-story walk-up apartment.
Okay.
Yeah, low compared to the other buildings above it, but that's the terminology. So you have those land uses planned out in places where it makes sense, with little commercial nodes around them that provide services.
I see.
So you definitely want your apartments and some of your higher density uses around that commercial area, so that those businesses get the traffic. Right? You get people that live in close proximity, so they'll choose to go to those places.
Location is key.
But it's also about, you know, providing the right amount of park space for a whole bunch of different users, so that people can age in place, so that, you know, when maybe you don't want to maintain a single family home anymore once you're retired, maybe you can move into an adult oriented condo in that area. Right. So our focus is definitely on providing a mix of land uses.
Okay,
Camrose has been very segregated in terms of land use, where you have your single family, then your duplex over here, your fourplex. You can really, and a lot of communities do, mix those uses really well, even on the same block.
Is that a new trend, or is that just?
It's a new trend for Camrose.
It is.
It's a new trend for Camrose.
I see. Yeah.
It's been around. The concept's been around for about 10 years. It's just we don't see the explosive levels of growth where we can make that change. But we talked about the Stony Ridge development. That's predominantly single family, but there's duplex mixed in it, rather than a duplex area like this block or this cul-de-sac. It's just single family home, single family home, single family home, duplex, single family, duplex. Like it's mixed in there. And with some of the really nice design duplexes that you see out there now, it's tough to even tell they're duplexes sometimes. What are some other ones? The Valley View West community, we're working on another phase of development in that area with the developers, and eventually there'll be a high school. Well, there'll be a school. We think it'll be a high school, but it's whatever school has the need for it first. So there'll be a school there. There'll be a commercial area on the corner. There'll be some. Right now, it's single family duplex and a couple of fourplexes. There'll be some additional density in a couple of the other areas. And eventually that road where it dead ends right now will be built through to 68th Street.
So is there, like, when you're talking about the mixed use, I think that's a really interesting topic. Is there a way, so like, let's go back to the Augustana area. I've talked to a few people, everyone has mixed opinions on it, but like, is there any opportunity for that area to have I don't know if it's considered light use commercial or like mixed commercial or whatever?
It's a planner's dream, mixed use development. Multiple uses in a single building. I love the concept. You know,
kind of similar to what's on 51st there, right? Like
I'm trying to think if we have any mixed use, like true mixed use buildings in Camrose. I don't know if we do, where it's like commercial on the main floor, residential above.
But isn't correct me if I'm wrong, I could be totally off topic.
I can't think of any examples, so go ahead, give me one.
But what about the ones on 51st here, just north of Co-op? Then the ones.
Oh yeah, the live work units.
Those are right. That's commercial.
Yeah,
main,
that's
residential
a
above?
type, right? It's a single unit though.
Oh,
right?
I
So
see.
I'm not.
So you're saying like more of a bigger building.
Yeah, like 4 or 5 commercial bays with 20 units residential above or something like that.
Yeah.
That's a quintessential mixed use example.
But that's more. I think that what you're talking about there is really more maybe what downtown Camrose almost has to offer, right? You have a lot of the commercial space already.
Our downtown area development plan definitely identifies that as a preferred land use.
Right.
But the Town Square project, that's the builder and contractor and owner there were really, really innovative in going along with this live work unit concept. It was a requirement that they had to have a commercial component in downtown. And when we suggested the live work units, they jumped on the idea, and I think they've sold pretty well. I think there's 4 of them there, and at least 3 of them have businesses in them right now.
Yeah.
So that's a new concept, but it's a new old concept. If you look at Main Street, those all used to be shops on the main floor, and the owner would live above.
Right.
And now they're just mostly used as storage. I think there are still a couple of residential units on the second floor.
Yeah.
But that's the same sort of concept, is a shopkeeper or entrepreneur or any sort of professional working and living in the same spot.
Well, yeah, like it's
because commute times in Camrose are so long.
I bet you that person really complains walking down the stairs. There's crap in the way again.
Hopefully, there's not too much traffic on your personal stairs to your house.
Well, and I think, like here, and I guess this is more of a trend question again, is that like construction costs are always going up. Like I don't think there's been a single year where it's like, oh, lumber and drywall and everything's gone down. Like I don't think that's even happened. But I think that kind of idea of when you mentioned the mixed use makes sense. Like if I could, depending on feasibility, but live, like being able to work in the same building that you live in, as long as the location is appropriate, is key. But I mean, like with cost of construction going up, if you can own one building for both features, then why not?
Yeah, why not?
Right.
Spread the word.
That did not land as well as I thought it would.
No.
I thought I was going to get more traction out of that. So
I'm totally in agreement. Spread the word. It's but the construction costs, they do go up all the time, and it's expensive to build mixed-use buildings because you have to separate that commercial from the residential, and you also have, commercial loading bays and things like that.
Right.
It's expensive, and but the community benefit of doing so, I don't know if we can put a dollar price on that. As long as you can sell it.
Yeah. Either whether you can sell it or you can build it in. Yeah, like the one thing is too, when looking from a business standpoint, you want to have the right people in there, right? No one wants. Like you mentioned, a cannabis shop, right? That's never going to work because of the residential use is so close.
Sure.
Correct. In terms of what you mentioned, I don't know.
It would work.
It would work?
Yeah.
I thought you said the cannabis shop had to be further...
Well, you don't want to put one in the middle of like a single detached dwelling neighborhood that's existing. But if you
Unless demand is high.
Well, maybe it is. Maybe the demographics of Camrose are different than I think they are.
Yeah.
But like this multi-use building where it's designed and you've got a cannabis retailer and everybody who's buying there in that condo knows that that's going to be a retail store.
Right.
Then, if they don't have an issue with it, well, it's their investment.
Yep.
And really, the off-site uses are so minimal. You can't smoke it on shop.
Right. That makes sense.
I told you we'd get in the Joe Rogan style podcast.
Yeah. There's a certain other element.
Does that make me Elon Musk?
Sure.
Great.
I don't know if I want to be Joe Rogan though. Anyways, the Joe Rogan experience.
Heck of a back kick.
Yeah, no doubt. So let's say closing it up. Who else would you want to see on our podcast? Question number 1, and the question number 2 is, what question would you ask them?
Definitely. I think I even mentioned it. You should talk to Patricia McQuarrie, our economic development officer, and you should ask her what she thinks of those cookies because they're delicious.
Maybe I can find her before the weekend here.
You should. Cookies are good. You should ask her how her experience in Wetaskiwin as a
okay.
counselor is different from what she's experienced so far in Camrose.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll make a note of that because I have to go
But
through this whole
who
podcast.
who else you should talk to? Like,
Could be anyone.
be a really-
anyone,
yeah,
anyone,
really good-
anyone surrounding community.
really, yeah. See, without the podcast name, I don't know who else. Like
The scale of building. I think that's what's going to be.
Okay.
I like that.
the scale of the building.
No, the scale of building.
The scale.
Not
of
the
building.
scale of the building. That'd be weird.
You should talk to. You should talk to Sean McKinnon,
Yeah.
5-Star Home Solutions.
Yeah.
Yeah, he'd give you a good podcast, I think. He's got a lot of insight, and he's done a lot of innovative, much like yourself, done a lot of innovative projects in Camrose. He's got a good story to tell. I don't know what question to ask him. Like, when you're doing your next development, and he'll probably say, "When I sell this one."
Yeah, exactly.
Who else? I could give you a couple of other ideas. You know Lars Hallström at the University of Alberta?
No.
The Augustana campus.
No, I don't.
He's a professor there. Interesting guy. Loves rugby. And the Rugby World Cup's going on right now, so probably not a good time to interview him for
Fair
a
enough.
podcast. But
Yeah.
don't worry, he's also doing his professorliness business. So
Minus the rugby. Or plus
really
rugby.
interesting guy. And ask him what his favorite beer is if you do.
Perfect. One final question is, what, in terms of, like, what is a big trend that's kind of happening on a city scale? And maybe not so much Camrose, maybe it's more bigger cities. I don't know if Edmonton, obviously a million people, or we're talking New York, Toronto. What are some of the upcoming trends that you see, that you've kind of seen already happen?
There's lots of trends. There's always something new that's happening, but I would say every trend in planning right now fits within the broader trend of climate resiliency.
Okay.
How are we going to plan for the cities of the future, knowing that climate change is real, it's happening, and cities are on the front line of that, right? We have, if there's a drought and there's no water in the Battle River or Dried Meat Lake, it's a huge issue to deal with everywhere, but I mean the city's on the front line of providing that water service.
Right.
I don't mean to be like fear mongering. I'm just trying to provide an example.
Yeah.
But a lot of places are dealing with rising sea levels. They have to deal with how to restore those estuaries, build new dike systems. A lot of places are dealing with extreme heat and how to deal with that in terms of planting more trees,
Right.
Shade, cooling stations, all those sorts of things.
So on that trend,
Sustainability can be efficient though as well. So, like an example, what's a good one? Rain gardens.
Yeah.
So if you create a boulevard area that has trees and low shrubs and drought-tolerant species, and you channel your stormwater into that rather than into the storm system, it of course helps mitigate that by not creating conditions in which you could have a major storm event that could cause downstream flooding.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah.
There's an example.
Yeah, that's smart.
But climate resiliency, huge topic, and I guess in planning, I know that we're on the front line of that.
Right.
Because we're planning communities that are going to be living, if a home is going to be there for 100, 150 years, that climate is going to be vastly different than what we have today, much like it was not as different, but quite a bit different 150 years ago.
Right. Interesting. And then, so when you're talking about
super controversial podcast this just turned into, the climate debate, it's over.
And then he mentions Asian carp before that too. So this is quite the pod. And then, like, not even expecting to be anywhere.
We've talked
here.
about everything.
We have. Anything else we need to talk about before we close out? Should we get political? I'm just joking. No, we're not getting political.
So we've got a federal election coming up. Let's talk about that.
Okay.
So let's talk about election signs, because that's something we get a lot of questions about.
Dan, this is a good one.
So we have nominations for all major parties in Camrose. There's now been candidates nominated for the Green Party, the New Democrats, the Liberals, the Conservatives, and the People's Party of Canada. We've sent all of them by email a letter telling them to sign regulations in Camrose. The number one important thing to remember is in Camrose, election signs cannot be placed on city property. They have to be placed on private property. There are some signs out right now, and we realize that, and they will be dealt with shortly.
Perfect.
But most communities have given up trying to fight that battle and just say they're temporary, let them go wherever they want. We haven't given up the fight here in Camrose. We still try to get them located on private property.
Yeah.
And signage is always an issue, regardless of whether it's election or otherwise. But we're just trying to make sure everybody plays by the same rules.
Fair enough.
There's a very neutral political discussion. Play by the same rules.
Done. Aaron, thanks so much.
Thanks.
Appreciate it.
For the introductory podcast. First one.
First one.
Awesome. Thanks, Andre.
Oh, thank you. That was awesome.